Hey everybody, welcome to episode 13 of Between the Lanes. I'm Ralph.
I'm Ron.
And our special guest this week is Chris Radisich. How you doing, Chris?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Doing great over here in Pennsylvania.
Cool. Normally we make you guys wait a little while before we introduce our guest, but we figured we'd go ahead and bring Chris on. Chris is the current chairman of ISRA, and he's going to tell us a lot about the ISRA Worlds that just concluded. He's going to talk to us about some of his duties that he has as chairman, and even tell you a little bit about his history. Chris is a longtime slot racer, very respected and well-known guy, and we will get to that in just a minute. But first, Ron, what kind of race results and race announcements you got for us?
All right. Well, we'll start off with ORS. Raced at Tom Thumb Hobbies this past weekend. And in the retro angle winder class, it was Mike Raisin Garrett winning, with Mike McMaster second and Jason Dennis in third. And then Can-Am, it was Raisin again with Greg Fox second and Jason third. And then F1, you had Greg Fox winning with Josh Crutchfield second and Eric Balicki third.
Now, Jason Dennis, that's a name from the past, right?
Yeah, but not like a distance pass, but pass. But he used to race like in the OCC, and back in the mid '90s. And
90s.
He kind of quit racing at some point, and then probably more towards the late '90s. And
okay,
they run real race cars and stuff like that. So,
all right.
So he's back racing. It looks like. So that's good. Welcome back.
Good return.
Yep.
Good third there for everyone's favorite race director.
What now?
A good third there for everybody's favorite race director.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah.
Eric, yeah.
Yep. The R4 race director. Well, one of the R4 race directors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then last week we had, Tracy Brown on Slot Cars Are Us, White House, Tennessee, talking about the Hillbilly Howl. And that was a wing car race, and they had a pretty good turnout. And they had racers from kind of all around the country, Texas and California and Michigan and Indiana and Ohio and other places as well. But in the Group F class, Russell from Australia won. I don't know Russell's last name, but Russell from Australia won. In the Group F Pro, Richard Canute won. In the Hillbilly Box 12 race, which was a pretty close race, Boyd won, Rob Garland was second, Merrill Todd was third. They were all within 4 laps, and Boyd actually won overall from the C main. So it was like 634, 632, and 630, I think, were the totals in that one. So that was a pretty close race.
Yep.
C12, it was Richard Canute winning with a new American. It's probably a world record because they don't race Cobalt 12 very many other places. So Jim Stevens won 27 light with a new American lap record. Two Motor Open was won by Brad Freisner. Group 7 was won by Brad as well, with Rich Canute second, Timmy Skirka third, and Brad also set a new qualifying American record at 1.360. I think the world record's 134 something. So, I mean, it's
real close then.
Getting closer, yeah. So, because I think the track record was like 138. Brad set it there sometime last year or earlier this year. So, slowly inching towards that world's record.
It was a 134. Was that run in Pilsen?
Pilsen, yeah. And Brad did that too. So,
okay.
Both the American record and now the world record.
Well,
so
okay.
Not that we ever really kept American records, but
yeah. So maybe more of like a track record technically, or
track record. So, but it is the fastest track in America, and it even got faster this weekend. So
yeah.
See. Okay.
Chris, have you been down to Tracy's yet?
No, it's one place I haven't made it to.
Okay.
Okay. He's been to the next place we're going to talk about, though. The Bula Bash was at Buena Park Raceway this weekend. The SRRA.
probably a few times.
It's kind of your old stomping grounds, right, Chris?
Yeah, I kind of lived there for a little bit, you know.
Yeah. They had a NASCAR Enduro on, I think it was Friday. And Team High Tech number 2 was the winner, with Team Burrow second, and Team Old School was third. The winning team was Ben Cervantes Sr. and Jr., and I believe Craig Correa was on the winning team. And then they ran Retro Angle Winder, which James Grinstead won over Roy and then Bill V. And then F1 was won by Ben Cervantes Jr., Dale Yamashita second, Craig Correa third. And Can-Am had Jerry Johnson winning with Dale Yamashita second and Sam Rackham third.
There's some guys I haven't seen for a little bit.
Yeah, well, and usually one name you kind of notice missing out of all that's like Duran. I know Duran was there and ran Can-Am, but usually he's in the top 3. So I haven't heard from anybody out there, so I don't know how the race went down. But congratulations to Jerry Johnson for sure.
Yeah,
you don't see him like in the winner's circle a lot. So
Jerry and TJ have always been really fast. They come from Arizona, so
right.
Sneak across the border and make a run on Buena Park every so often.
Right.
And, they've always been fast, way back to the SoCal USRA days.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them names are old wing car racers. So,
Sam Rackham, and there was a lot of guys, a lot of the old wing guys. I know even Bill Taylor out there is racing.
Right.
Various scale cars now.
Anytime you beat Duran at Buena Park, I mean, you've run good. Yeah.
Right. So.
Duran's pretty fearsome at Buena Park.
Right. And I know he's headed out to the Fall Brawl here in a week or two. So then the Penn Jersey NASCAR series ran at Speed Zone in New Jersey. And they ran 4.5-inch trucks. Jerry Herbert Jr. was the winner, followed by Randy Core and John Weaver. And then in what they call their Cup class, which is a 4-inch flexi class with a NASCAR body, Jerry Herbert Jr. won again, followed by Joe M. and John Mattis was third.
Okay.
Jerry's so fast on that track.
Who is?
Jerry Herbert.
Oh, that's on the Speed Zone track?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, all the tracks out east. He's
fast. He's a good driver.
Yeah. Want to give a shout out to Dave Parada.
Yes.
Yeah, we're speaking of that his area of the country there. So Dave had his brain surgery, and he went home the very next day, and he's at home healing. So
right.
Looks like all things are going as good as they can be for Dave now.
Right. So now we're going to go down to Texas to Dallas Slot Cars, and they had the Texas Retro Series there this weekend. Can-Am, it was Bob Bellhausen, Richard With, and Alan Dotson, your top 3. F1, it was Casey Newberg, Ken Stevens, and Alan Dotson. And Angle Winder was Alan Dotson winning, Ken Stevens second, and George Michaez third. AWRA, the Womp Racing Association, they had a race at Staunton, Virginia. Tommy Campbell won GT1, and Nick Brantley won the stock car race. And then they had a race in San Diego. And the Legends was won by a gentleman named Whistler, and Sportsman was won by Fast Eddie. I don't have any other details, but that's what I've seen posted so far.
All right.
At Rapid Raceway, they had the Terry Christopher Memorial Race. That was the modified driver that got killed in the
Teddy Christopher.
Teddy. Can't read my own notes. They had a memorial race for him. And Keith Libby was the winner, and they raced modified. I don't know if they're the paper bodies or the fold-up cardboard bodies, but Keith Libby was the winner. There's a new series. It's called the Midwest Spec Series, and they run like in the central Illinois area, and they just started running like the dirt late model cars with bodies similar to what they run where Brent Auto runs. I think they might be a resin body or a styrene body. Anyway, they had their first race this weekend, and Robert Lynn was the winner. Kurt Vincent was second, and Ed Riddle was third. They've got more races coming up.
Is Kurt Vincent running that series?
I think he's involved. I don't know if he's totally running it, but I'm pretty sure he's heavily involved in that six. So
cool.
And then we'll go down to Tennessee again. They had the Doctober race and Hot Slots Raceway in Louisville, Tennessee. In NASCAR, it was Gil Gunderson. Trucks, it was J.C. Martin. And the Fairgrounds cars, J.C. Martin won again. So that was a hard body race. And I'm sure it was probably breakout. But
that was on the Black Snake?
Black Snake. I think, Chris, you ever been on the Black Snake?
No. Okay. I've certainly raced with Gil.
Well, I couldn't remember if you.
Of course.
I couldn't remember if you ever went down to Central Raceway in Tennessee, and it was Laverne, right?
Laverne.
Yeah, I went to. There was a retro race down there somewhere. I went to.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like,
maybe one of the tracks. Yeah.
Central Tennessee Raceway, was that where you went?
I'm not sure now. It was a few years ago.
I was thinking you were there one year, but I could be wrong.
I don't remember Chris being there.
I think the raceway's closed. I don't think it was that race. I think the raceway I went to was closed.
Well, the raceway we're talking about is closed now, too.
Oh, okay.
Well,
they had a flat track and a bank track, and it was, I forget what it was now. It's a few years ago.
Did it have straight lane rotation on it?
No, it had regular rotation.
Oh, yeah, this wasn't it then.
Okay, so you've been to the Black Snake since it's moved, right, Ralph?
Yep.
Did they change the controller panel around?
No.
Okay. It's very bizarre because, like, orange is down on the end where black would be or something.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of cool like that.
Well, it's cool for visibility, but like when you're on orange and you want to ask the guy on blue, like, let me go or something, he's not actually next to you. Yeah. but it's so it's like, hey, can you let me go?
But it's nice when you're changing lanes, you just go the next one down the line instead of everyone running in and out of each other. That part's kind of cool.
That's cool, yeah.
See, someday we need to have an old school race where we run the American rotation again, where if you start on red, you run white, or you run red, white, green, orange, blue, purple, black, yellow, or no, that's a mixture, but you know what I'm saying. So
we can make it a breakout race.
Breakout race. There you go. We won't even get into that right now.
Breakout race.
Okay, so the Triangle Slot Series ran at American Adrenaline Speedway. They ran LMP, GTP, and stock car. They ran FNRS rules in all the classes, and Guy Spalding won all three races. So good job, Guy. Clean sweep. The trifecta.
But did he have bumpers?
Well, it's an FNRS rules race, so no bumpers.
All right.
Well, he might still ran them, but you didn't have to have them.
Okay.
The GUR Series was at P1 Raceway down in Florida. Can-Am was won by Jeff Bonato. Marcus Rambos was second, and Doc Doherty was third. F1 was won by Jeff again, with Doc second and Terry Tani third. And then the GT class, Jeff won again, another clean sweep. Terry was second, and Brandon Beasley was third.
Okay.
And then the BRS ran at HMS Speedway in Bellevue, Ohio, and we ran on the American Hill Climb Crossover Aristocrat. Can-Am was won by Cap Henry. I was second. Bud Bardos was third. F1, I won. Cap was second. Steve Pepler was third. And Anglewinder Cap won. I was second. And Frankie Schaefer was third.
Good job to all of you.
And I think that's all my race reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Chris, you mentioned you are now in Pennsylvania, but you come by the way of New Zealand. So tell us kind of where slot car racing began for you, how long you've been doing it, and how you got to Pennsylvania.
Okay. I started in 1970 when I was 5 years old at a club called the Henderson Miniature Motor Racing Club in Auckland, or in Henderson, Auckland, in New Zealand, which is Henderson's the city I was from. And my older brother got me into racing there, and yeah, started at 5 years old and been racing ever since.
Does your brother still race?
Not slot car. Well, if he gets a chance of slot cars, but he went on to be an FIA two-time world champion in real cars, so he kind of got a little busy there.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
But yeah, I've raced all over the place, but started there. That club is still running today. It's a club that the guys that started in 1962 had the foresight to put together a building and a long lease on some land next to a railway line, a nice cheap lease, and the club's been passed down to committee over the years and still there. In fact, if I go back there this Christmas, I'll be racing there. So
wow,
pretty cool to, it's like almost like walking into a time warp when you walk into it. There's posters all over the walls from years ago and all sorts of stuff. It's a really cool place.
Awesome.
So yeah, I've been racing all that time, and also been involved in the administration side of slot cars and various things from the committee on that club through to the New Zealand Slot Car Association to leading that for a number of years. And then, of course, once I moved up to the US and the SoCal USRA, then USRA and IMCA, and now, of course, ISRA. So I've kind of done the rounds. But I raced in New Zealand all those years. My first international race was 1988. The Van Rossum Chicago race was the first time I raced slot cars outside of New Zealand. And that was quite an experience, and changed slot car racing in New Zealand forever with, the stuff that I took back and the knowledge I gained in that time. And then in 2000, I moved up to Los Angeles and raced there in SoCal USRA and other things around the West Coast. And then 2008, found myself across here on the East Coast. So it's kind of cool to race with all the guys on the West Coast and all the legends like John Tory, and I got to race with Stubby and of course Pistol Pete and all those guys. And then to come out east and run into Noose and Tony P and everybody that was out east. So it's been kind of interesting for me. And then, of course, guys like Howie, and I've raced with him all over the place. So it's kind of cool to actually get around and race with all these guys, not just on a one-off basis, but, go weekly racing and things with them all. So it's been kind of cool. I've had an interesting slot car career.
Right. So you're a pretty established world traveler. You've raced a lot of different countries, a lot of big-time races, and you've won a lot of big-time races too. So all your travels and all your racing led you to where you are now here as the current chairman of ISRA.
Yep.
So, and that is that a 3-year position?
Yes, it is. This is my first year, so we've got two years to go.
Okay. And you guys just wrap the events up this year in Simona.
Yep.
We did a live podcast from there, and we've gone over some of the results. But tell some of our listeners who may not be familiar with ISRA, tell us a little bit about the event and give a little bit of background as to far as like what goes into actually hosting an event on a world stage like that.
Well, ISRA racing is predominantly Eurosport racing, 32nd Eurosport, 32nd Formula One Eurosport, 24th Eurosport, and then we have the production race, which at this point is a stamped steel chassis with a Group 12 and organizer's choice of body. So that's the 4 classes that we run. Those have been run every year since 1992, which was the first ISRA race, and that was in Česká Lipa in the Czech Republic. It was the very first race. And this year Simona was our 26th. So it's an organization with some history. Goes back to the UES, was the European Association before ISRA came along, and they were predominantly running 30-second scale. So ISRA came along and put 32nd together with 24th, and got a lot more international races involved in it, and has moved on from there ever since. So each year the race moves around. Last year was in the US at Rogers in Mid-America. This year was Italy and Sulmona. Next year is Vasa in Finland. It's 2008, and then 2019 we've already decided is in England and Corby in England. So we try to be 2 to 3 years ahead all the time. There's a bit of interest this point in 2020. Where that'll be, we don't know at this point. The other interesting thing about ISRA, it is predominantly a European organization. So we only come out of Europe every 4 years. Or sorry, we have 4 in, and then 4 in Europe, and then 1 outside. So the next one outside will be 2021. And that's at this stage looking like maybe either Brazil or the USA, but there's a couple of other countries that are interested too. So we'll see where that one goes. So it's got quite a history and quite a structure. The events themselves are quite a big undertaking. We've got a field of 120, and
that's because you have to limit it at 120.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd just be there too long, because the practice is fairly long. So it turns into these days almost a 2-week event. You're really serious and want to get plenty of practice, you get there like the Monday before at least, or the weekend before. So you have free practice up until, well, it's kind of free practice. They've divided it into classes, even though it's uncontrolled practice. They divide it into classes so that we run, production, then 30-second Euro, then Formula One, then 24th each day, just so that the cars are kept separate. But then when we get to like Thursday, you've got 100, by then you've got 120 people, and even more with production races. There's open entry, so we can have, this year we had almost 80 teams. So you got like 160 people milling around the building,
right.
All trying to get onto 8 lanes. So there's a lot of control and practice, and we have race directors, separate race directors. That's all they do is direct the race all week. So they're there to keep the control and keep everybody moving. So there's a lot of organisation that goes into it. It's as far as races go, it'll be the most organised racing that I've ever competed in. We have an overall race director who's responsible to run the actual event. Then we have the race controllers. There'll be at least 2 of those, and they're just running the heats and looking after all the actual running of the races. So it's they're the 3 main people that are there organising it. Generally, none of them race. So it's quite a bit goes into it. As far as the other organisation, it's got to the point where pretty much every year now it's a hotel race. So the organisers are responsible for putting on the whole event. They generally try to do a deal with a local hotel or whatever there, so that we can kind of keep everybody fairly close and try and get a reasonable deal somewhere. This year, Piero and Guido put together an amazing event in a little town in Sulmona, about 2.5 hours north of Rome. And it was an awesome place, awesome event, well organised. Went off without a hitch.
And each year, the organizer is responsible for the track also, right? Having a track built?
Yes, at this point, it's kind of an unwritten thing, but each organizer really needs to build a new track. If you were to go into a bid with an old track at this point, you probably would not win it. There's nothing stopping an organizer doing that, but the ISRA races seem to like to have a new track each year, and it's the different challenge,
Right. And that's because they, like you said, they like the challenge, but it's also maybe a little bit more fair that somebody doesn't just have a track to practice on for years and years and years, right?
It is, and it's actually, that's a thing that we're just sort of going through discussions at the moment. There's pros and cons to having a new track every year. On the plus side, it's a new technical challenge for drivers to master and do. On the negative side, the last few years anyway, the track has been available for 6-8 months before the event, and people have been able to book private sessions or multiple warm-up races or whatever on the track. So it's getting to the point where a lot of people are going and practicing and running. So I would say it's almost to the point where you need to go to a warm-up to be competitive, because you get a lot more practice at the warm-ups and that sort of stuff than you do at the event. So if you go to a warm-up, you can sort of go a little bit later to the event.
But it's twice the money.
Right, that kind of increases the cost. So at one point, you weren't allowed to practice on the tracks, right?
Yes, one point years ago. That's a long time ago now. That's kind of changed. I think it's on one side, it's important for the organisers to be able to make some money out of the event. They put in a lot of effort. For instance, Piero, really, this is 2 years of really hard effort for him to put this whole event together. So you should be able to make something out of it, and really it comes down to the practice and with him being able to host people there all year for practice and things, that kind of made a big difference to him. So it's I'm kind of sitting on the fence as to whether we should look at a standard track design that then maybe people could build in their own country and then not have to go to the expense of traveling. On the other hand, I think it's kind of cool for a new challenge every year, and we are talking, in the world we're talking 120 slot races, so we've got the very, very top crazy bunch, if you want to call them that. So it's the travel at the very top end is not that big a deal. They're going to go somewhere and race, so they might as well go to a warm-up.
So I've already heard the race just ended, and you already see people online talking about they want to go to Finland, and I'm sure when it comes in 2021, like you said, if it comes to the United States, there's going to be a lot of people that want to go to that race.
Yep.
So let's say I want to go to Finland and race, what do I have to do in order to actually be able to go to Finland?
Okay. If you were to go to Finland, given that you've got no ISRA points, and the ISRA points are a 3-year rotating point system, so you keep your points for 3 years on a rotating basis. So if you don't have points in the last 3 years, you can't run the Eurosport classes. You won't get an entry into there. Well, sorry, you can enter. You'll go onto a waiting list, and you'll get entry after all the seeded drivers. So it's not impossible that you could get in as a reserve, but the production race is open to everybody. It actually carries a lot of points, so that's the accepted way at this point to get into ISRA is come along, race in the production race, gain some points there, and then once you've got those points the next year, you're in the first group to be accepted for their entries to be accepted.
So let's say there's 125 people with points. I'm 125th. So there's a possibility, even though I gain points, I still might not be able to get in because the entries are the Eurosport entries are capped at 120, right?
Yes. Right now we have 236 people with points.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people there.
So right now, for anybody planning to go to Finland who has never been to an ISRA event, your best bet is to plan to go and just run production and maybe have some cars with you just in case you happen to get in on an alternate, right?
Well, you'll know by the time you get there. And if you're there and you're the first alternate and somebody gets sick on the day or something, then that could be an absolute last minute call up if there's a spot available. But other than that, the entries close at the end of June, so it's pretty well organised. And we work with everybody who's on the waiting list once entries are closed see who's serious about getting there or not. Or
So it will close June of next year, though, right? June of
yes,
2000.
30th of June entries close. So that gives us time to work with those that haven't made it in. If there's spots, or to organise a list of people who are going to run production, and then they will probably end up at the top of the list to go into the other classes if something happens.
So if you had to take a guess, how many alternates made it in this year?
This year, I think we had about 15 in different classes.
Okay,
so
that's quite a few then. So it's not just maybe like one person's going to get in.
No.
It could be quite a few.
I think Herman James was one of the last in, and I think he was originally about 10th or 12th on the list, I think.
Okay, cool.
Things happen. So the odd person drops out. We've even had cases where racers have been able to get visas to get into countries and all sorts of things have happened. So
right.
It's I think this year too there'll probably be an even bigger English presence with people trying to get points to get into the England race.
Yep.
So this one could be fairly tight to get into, but production is always open, and you can score points there, and that gets you into the main list.
But
and there's a lot of points on double points on production. Well, sorry, it's single points, but both drivers get the same points. So it could be, if you can get into the top half of the field, you can get some pretty good points.
Is there not a limit on how many production teams there can be?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Wow. And how many production teams do you have this year? Was close to 170, right?
We had 74 or 75 in the end. We had, I think, 80 entered, and then I think 80 or 81 entered, and then we got down to 74, I think.
Okay. Wow.
It's a lot of people.
74 teams.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest it's ever been, right, this year?
Yes. Yep. Imagine what that qualifying lane looks like after they've all done a minute.
Yeah, because it kind of creeps up every year.
Yeah.
The team race as far as total teams.
Teams race is an awesome race. It's it was originally for the guys to learn the track and get a bit of extra practice time, but it's gone way beyond that now. It's war now, It's
I was going to say, with the production becoming so popular, I'm sure it brings on the whole new set of challenges. Time is, you're up against time restrictions, and like you said, I mean, it's just the competition is that much more fierce, and people start spending more money to win the handout stuff. And so I know you guys are always looking at ways to improve your processes and fine tune things for the next year. So I'm sure you guys have already talked about what happened this year. So.
Yeah, quite a bit. And one of the big changes in the production race for the coming year is
handout chassis.
Whether it's going to be 2018, we're not 100% sure yet, but handout chassis are coming.
Right.
They were voted in this year, and we're just going through now whether we can implement them for 2018 or whether it's going to be 2019. But they're coming.
What kind of chassis will you be using?
Well, it's up to the organizer. All the handout parts in ISRA are up to the organizer. ISRA looks, the organizers talk to us, and obviously, we've got a technical director, which is Graham Woodward, and he'll work with the organizers to make sure that we're not going to run a Falcon motor, for instance, as a handout motor. We have rules there that we have to run a 12, and he'll work with them to make sure we're going to get a good quality 12 and that sort of stuff.
Right.
The bodies too are generally a new design and a new build for each year. And again, the organizer is responsible for putting those together, and we sort of work with the organizer to make sure the body's not completely out of control. It's supposed to be a European saloon or American sedan. But they've got some pretty amazing downforce. They're almost like an LMP body pretty much these days. And then, so the same would apply to the tires is the same thing. We kind of work with them to make sure that we're going to get an okay tire. We're not running on old orange rubber or something silly like that. There's one famous race that we showed up and got handed out orange tires, but that's another story.
So if somebody want to look into signing up for the next ISRA Worlds in Finland, where would they do that? Do you have a website they could go to?
The Finnish website is not up, won't be up until December, I believe. They'll have their website going. But the ISRA site is always there. In fact, we've just redeveloped the ISRA site, and it's isra-slot.com.
isra-slot.com?
Yep.
Okay.
There is a 2008 ISRA. If you search for ISRA 2008 on Facebook, there's a fairly active group for the ISRA 2018 event. And the organisers and me and the other ISRA guys are all looking at that group all the time too.
So after they like the Between the Lanes Facebook page and the Between the Lanes YouTube page,
yep,
they can go to the ISRA page and give that a like too.
Yep. Yeah, ISRA has also got a Facebook. ISRA itself has a Facebook page as well. Just search for ISRA and you'll come up with a whole lot of choices there.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had a dedicated race director, and that was Andy Wasserman, correct?
Actually, Simon from Simone from Sweden, and Andy. They were both race directors.
Okay, yeah, because I know Andy does a lot of he goes to some USRA races, and he's a well-traveled racer, and he's a well-known race director.
Definitely, he did. They both did an excellent job this year. In fact, Andy, I think, did the whole production race from start to finish, which is amazing to keep consistency.
Right.
When he said he was going to, Lars Harrison was the race director, so he was in charge of running the whole event. And when Andy sort of talked to him and said he wanted to do the whole production race, we're like, you crazy? But it was great because you had the same race director, very consistent the whole way through.
Right.
That race, you can have 10, 15 people on the same lap. It's unbelievable at the end,
See, that's something that we struggle with here sometimes is, race directors and tech directors, because we're not on a world stage like that. And a lot of times, Ron, as you know, when you run a smaller series, sometimes it's a struggle when you go to a raceway. They don't always have somebody they can provide as a race director, or like for the FNRS, for example, Ron and I go in and we do tech together, and so far the raceway has provided a race director for us, which has been awesome.
That's great.
But sometimes you hear a lot of people, they complain, they say, well, it's not fair because Ron techs his own car and then he gets to race. Yeah. Well, who else is going to do it?
Okay, when I was USRA director, and I found myself in that exact same position at NATS.
Right.
I found myself doing tech. I found myself running races. Found myself doing all sorts of things. And my reply to that was always, okay, come on over here.
Yeah, here. Right. Take my car.
Yeah, I mean that's my point. I mean, people have made comments to me in the past. It's not fair that you get to do all that, or the guy race directing and the guy teching shouldn't be racing in his own race. But the reality is if the guy holding the race isn't holding the race and he's not teching the cars, right, then there is no race.
Yep. I always lean on people, even in ISRA here. I'm leaning on people to volunteer, and if they don't want to volunteer, well, we'll move on to somebody else and we'll give you a hard time later, kind of, Yeah. I think especially if you're a top racer, you should be prepared to stand up and do a little bit, somewhere and help out with tech or anything that you're asked to do. Maybe some race directing, whatever. There's no reason why not.
Right. Yeah.
And not all series are lucky enough to have dedicated race directors and tech directors and everything else. People should be happy that somebody's stepping up and putting a series on.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's a tough job.
And most people are, but like I always say, the race directing is the worst job. It's got to be the most thankless job.
Yeah.
In slot car racing, because no matter how hard you try to do the best you can, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like your decision or
Yep.
the call you made on a track call
Yep.
or not a track call. Like you're never gonna make everybody happy.
But the best part about race directing is
What's that? The pay?
you get to sit down.
Yeah, you do. You have to
You sit
marshal.
down, and you can say, "Hey, can you go get me a Coke or a water?" And usually they'll bring it to you for free.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys mentioned Eric at the R4. I mean,
Yeah.
Eric does a great job race directing the R4, and that's not an easy event to race direct.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a simple answer when I'm race directing, and I can be known as pretty tough when I'm race directing, but my answer to any arguments is 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Powers on.
Turn the power on. Let's go.
It ends all arguments every time.
Yeah, it's just it just stops any nonsense. It's
Right.
You want to lose laps? Argue with me.
Right. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about the tire situation in ISRA. I imagine that's got to be very, very challenging and very tricky to try to stay on top of what tires you need with that many people racing throughout such a long period of time, right?
It's easy in the production race, obviously, because they hand out tires.
Handouts, right.
But then the numbers of repairs are limited, so you've got to be careful how many you use in practice and what you do.
How many pairs are you limited to?
Well, this year we were probably able to buy more than we wanted, or more than most years. I think I got 4 or 5 pairs for practice, which was actually enough for us to do all the time practice that we did. Plus, then we had the 2 handout pairs. But still, even that, the track conditions change. So trying to figure out where you put your car, what you think are going to be race conditions, and how those tires are going to react is still a bit of a guess. But yeah, certainly the other classes, it's probably the single biggest tuning thing you've got is tires. And everybody's talking about what tires they've got, and somebody's got something from 2007 that has been buried in a hole in their backyard for 10 years, or they've got this magic tire from somebody from 5 years ago or whatever it is. So of course you never really know what everybody's running. All you can do is get what you can, and most of the top Eurosport racers tend to buy any rubber they can find, because of course, how do you know if this rubber is going to be any good or not?
Right.
So you buy a few pairs of everything you can possibly get and keep storing them away, and then you get a feel for kind of what different rubber will do, and then you kind of take the best you can with you, and then see what it does in the different conditions. ISRA practice, they tend to, the free practice, they tend to only clean the track after the second day. So the first day, in the morning and things, you're just running on glue. So that really doesn't tell you anything. The afternoon of the first day, conditions, you're getting some rubber down. So that's kind of starting to be qualifying conditions. And then the second day, you're kind of into what is probably race conditions. So at that point, you're looking, is the rubber does it go dry on the track? Does it stay moist? What happens in the different conditions? And then you've got to be ready with whatever you think is the best tire for that, what you guess the race conditions is going to be. And then of course you've got different hub sizes and that, so you can tune with the different hub sizes.
Right.
And of course nobody agrees what a big hub does versus a little hub, but
Yeah, well, we've been through that here on the show too. Yeah.
But it is what it is. So you've got to get what suits you and what you think is going to work in those race conditions. And of course, like we're talking about the qualifying lane, Orange Lane, for instance, gets a battering. Every class, 120 people qualify on it. It's when you run in the race on it, it's like somebody's just freshly glued Orange Lane. Your car just struggles, because there's build-up of rubber. You even start putting guide spaces under to lift the car up slightly to allow for all the...
You're trying to run on top of the rubber, not push through it.
But the problem with that is if you do it before qualifying, you're up in the air in qualifying. So it's a mix, of where you think you're going to qualify and where you think you might race, which.
Right. And
I think one that can predict exactly where they can qualify, except, well, yeah, probably nobody, but, you know.
and whatever tires you qualify on, you have to basically start the race on.
Yes.
And you can't
change
change.
fast warm up.
Right. You can't change in between heats.
No.
You have to change tires under green. So
all work on the car has to be done under green. So if you're going to change tires, and the first heats, the heats are only 3-minute heats.
Right.
So if you change tires on that, you're pretty much out. You're not going to make the top 24, because when you think the field goes from 120 straight to 24. So I had a couple of little things happen this year. In 32nd Euro, a body went through the gear. I lost a gear. Done. Nothing I could do. You know, I think I finished 80th or whatever it was. Just nothing you can do. You can't come back in that time.
Well, that's not what Mike Fleming says.
Not in a 3-minute heat against that field.
Yeah.
I know, Mike. I challenge him to come to an ISRA race, and we'll take him off the track for 5 laps and see if he can make the move.
So all the heats are 3 minutes except for the mains, right?
No, 3 minutes in the heats. So you qualify,
right,
and then you get seeded into a heat. The top 8 qualifiers go into the A heat, next 8 into the B, and so on down to the O, or I think it was the O we got down to this year. And then from there you go. The top 24 go into 3 semifinals. So again, the top 8. Well, laps and sections out of all the heats go into the A semi, next 8 into the B, third 8 into the C.
Okay, but all the heats are 3-minute heats.
No, those are 4 minutes. The semis are 4 minutes.
Oh, okay, so 3 minutes.
Yep.
Down to 24. They run 3 races at 4-minute heats.
Yep. And then
the top
8 out of those 3 races,
laps
and sections, then run 5 minutes.
Right.
In the main.
Right.
Yep. So not that many people get to run 40 minutes in an ISRA race.
No, only
8 in each pass. So.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go up topic here. Ron, you brought him up. I can't stand reading Mike Fleming shit.
Mike's a good dude.
There's the S-bomb.
I raced with Mike in well, I think it was pre-Group F, but Group F World Championship.
He constantly bashes everything he doesn't like, okay? If it's not his idea, you're an idiot for doing it. But Mike Fleming, start your own series and show us all how awesome your ideas are. Quit bashing retro racing. Quit bashing flexi racing, even if it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Quit bashing people who run breakout races. Who cares what anyone else does? We're all having fun. We're racing slot cars. So good. If you've got grand ideas, start a series.
And that's our new segment, Ralph's Rant.
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay.
But I mean honestly, he wears everybody out. It's beyond overkill.
Yeah. He's obviously yanked your chain.
Yeah. A few times. So let's go to 2 minutes versus 3 minutes, okay? So, again, this is a Mike Fleming thing. So, Mike Fleming's, Chris, I don't know if you saw this, but he accused us of ripping off our racers by only running 2-minute heats because he thinks that 3-minute heats, you get 8 more minutes of runtime, and you can come back from problems, okay? My rebut to that is, yeah, but you also have 8 more minutes to have problems in, too.
Well, my thing is, it don't matter if you're running 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute heats. What the problem is when you have the trouble. Okay, like if you blow your motor 30 seconds into a 2 minute heat or any heat, you're done. Basically. If you blow up 30 or 15 seconds to go towards the end of a heat and you can get your motor changed and get back, you might overcome that. So it's not about it. It's when you have your problem in the heat.
That happened to me and Willie in the F1 race at the ring race I was out there.
Right.
I blew a gear at the start of a heat.
Right.
I was done.
Right.
Willie blew was like 10 seconds to go or something. Got away with it.
Right.
And that race could have been 4 minute heats, and you'd have never made that up.
No.
And this weekend we were running 3-minute heats retro, okay, and my guide got split and my braid wouldn't stay in. Well, I only turned 16 laps in a 3-minute heat because I had to go. I mean, I kept putting the braid on, running a lap or two, but I came back and got second, but there was no way I was going to contend for the win because I couldn't make up those. It depends on, I ran 16 on a slow lane. If Cap would have been on purple and run a 40, do the math. I'm down 24 laps. I'm not coming back.
You have a problem. You're not going to catch Cap.
If I had run 35 laps, broke my guide, and lost 10 seconds on the track, I had a shot then.
Yeah, but even then, you're probably still not going to catch Cap.
Well, yeah, yes and no. It just depends on the track. Right.
That's still 2 laps.
Right.
Which at that level, if you're chasing Cap, that's a lot of laps.
Right.
Now, if the field's not very strong, yeah, sure,
Right.
maybe you can come back.
Right.
But if you take ISRA, for instance, you're not going to come back against those guys.
Right.
I don't care.
Well, and it's any good field, you're not coming back.
No, you're not. No.
I love running 3-minute heats. I love it in retro. But here's my thing on 2-minute heats and flexi racing. Okay, I think 2 minutes heats. I think when the race is over, I think it keeps the lap totals closer together.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think it makes you have to push harder because you only got 2 minutes. Then you constantly got to be bang, bang, bang on top of it. You can't slouch off.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I
like that. I like that aspect of it.
It's definitely do or die in 2 minutes.
You want real do or die racing. I grew up in New Zealand racing in that club. Most of in fact, probably 20 years of the racing in New Zealand there was all 10-lap races.
Wow.
Right.
They're awesome.
Well, when I started racing, we ran 6 or 10-lap heat races.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we ran 50-lap. Yeah, we ran 50-lap features. I mean, first night of 50 won.
Yep.
We didn't change lanes or anything. I mean.
Yep. Those 10-lap races, you have to go.
Yeah.
Right from when the power comes on. There's no warming your tires up. There's no messing around on the first lap. It's like, get out there and do it.
Yep.
But
it's a fun format.
Yeah. The overall point in my Mike Fleming rant was, you don't have to bash it just because you don't like it. I mean, bashing it doesn't help anybody, anything, anywhere. Everybody's welcome to state their opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
and everyone has their own opinion, and that's expected, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
like
you don't have to constantly insult people time after time because they don't like the same things you like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel he insulted me, but I'm just saying I've never.
Yeah, he's insulted a lot of people in the past.
Well, I have never sat there and said I am not going to this race because it's 2-minute heats.
No.
Or I'm not going because it's 3 minutes or 5. I go to the race I want to go to, and I don't care if it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's the same for everybody. We're going to have our race.
Yep.
So you do your best in the time you're on the track. I mean, it's what it's always been about, and it's what it will always be about. I mean,
yep. I will go to some races because of a different format or
right.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Right.
I like all different formats.
Right.
Right. I mean, I love 2-minute heats. I love 3-minute heats. I love 20-minute enduro heats. I mean,
right.
All awesome.
I race everything. I mean, under all kinds of different deals.
Yeah. They've all got their own little things that you need to do. The 2-minute you need to go fast straight away. 3-minute you've got a little bit of time. But again, it depends on the field you're in.
Right. And when you go to a race where you have 60-some entries in 3 classes and you get done at 10:30 at night running 2-minute heats, and in order to run 3-minute heats, you'd have got done at 11:30 at night. Everybody wants to get done early. So, personally, I don't think it's been a problem for us. I don't think people don't come to our races because they're 2-minute heats. They don't come to races because either they can't come to it, or maybe they don't want to race flexi cars. They don't want to travel. It's not about that's not an issue that he makes an issue of.
Yeah. I remember some SoCal USRA races were lining up for a GT12 main at 3 a.m.
Been there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're a victim of our own success in those days.
Right. And I have no problem racing late at night or early in the morning if the entries dictate that.
Yep.
I've been to races where we've had 20 guys in the building and run 4 or 5 classes, and it took 14 hours to do that.
Yeah, that's for that number of people is too much, but
right.
Yeah,
because I got to build my motors for the next class.
Yeah.
And I got to mount my body, and it's like you're supposed to do that before you come.
Yeah.
So, Chris, last week on the show when we were talking to Tracy Brown, I kind of posed the question versus running full length braid versus cut braid, maybe half length or 3/4 length. Tracy said, "What?"
Come on, because I got a story to tell you about this that happened at the race this weekend.
Okay, all right. So, Tracy said he runs cut braid on his wing cars, and he mentioned that they do that to reduce popping. We had a question online. Somebody wanted to know what popping was, and Ron basically just stated that it's when the power comes on. Sometimes wing cars will have the tendency to just pop the nose like that, lift right out of the slot.
Yep.
So Eurosport cars, retro cars, flexi cars, you race it all. Do you prefer full-length braid, or do you like to trim your braid?
On fast king tracks, I'll definitely trim it.
Okay.
It seems to be better in accidents and just seems kind of to work. On a flat track, I may trim a little bit, but not a lot generally. I generally run pretty long on the flat tracks, especially with the high horsepower Eurosport motors where we do a fair bit of braid burning.
Okay.
And, I know some people say, shorten the braid to stop burning, but every time I do it, I run out of braid. Right. So, if I'm running a 74.5 or something like that on a flat track, it needs to be a long braid so that by the end, maybe I've got something left.
So, all right, Ron, go ahead and tell your story, but after that, I want to talk bodies with Chris.
Okay. So we were practicing Friday night, and a local racer that knows the track well, who will go unnamed, but you know who you are. He was out there running his car, and I was standing there, and like I can hear his car cutting out or missing because it's not getting contact.
Then this is a retro car?
This is a retro Can-Am car, yeah. So
this is Cap?
No.
Okay. All right.
Names.
Better not be Cap.
He'll watch this. He'll laugh along with this. So,
okay.
He wasn't going very fast, and I said, your car's not getting any contact over there. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, can't you hear that it's like missing? And, and he goes, no. So he pulled the car around. I said, stop it. So I turned it over, and his braid was like short and burnt. And it was just horrible. And I'm like, you need to go put new braid in your car. So he goes away, comes back. A few minutes later, he goes, amazing how well my car goes and how much faster it is with new braid in it. I said, yeah, isn't that amazing? Because now you're getting contact. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Guide spaces are one of the most overlooked things in a slot racer's box as well.
Yeah.
That guide height right, getting the car height right and guide height right.
It's especially tricky when you have front wheels, because there's a fine line between rolling on the fronts and then losing what I call losing guide pressure, meaning there's no pressure on the guide in the slot,
Yep. I'll tell you, it's Silmona this year on that track. It's so flat that 1 to 2 thou under a Eurosport just made the car feel like you put 2 thou under it, made the car feel like it was like 10 thou in the air. It just made it undrivable almost. It was that critical. And yet, if you were a couple of thou the other way, burning braid.
Right.
So it was just one of those really, really sensitive tracks. It was driving everybody nuts.
And see, another big problem, too, at like bigger races, are you burning braid because the braid on the track's dirty and no one's cleaning the braid, and it just gets dirtier as the day goes on? I mean, we've actually had races where we're like, we're going to clean the braid before we run the next class.
Right.
Because the cars are going to go better. Not so much faster, but they're going to be more consistent. Because
the best way to get records and things is Clean the braid.
Well, and like rubber on the track, it's inconsistent because everybody wants to run the fast lanes.
Yeah.
Same with the braid. The fast lanes braid is dirtier than like the gutters or the lanes that don't get run in that much. So
With ISRA this year, we cleaned the race before every section of the racing because it was a very fast track and the cars ran on the braid quite a bit. So the braid did get very dirty. So
right.
It was a problem.
Yep. So it's a couple issues.
So I want to ask you some questions about bodies, Chris, because some races that I've been with or been at that you were there, I see you doing a lot of body testing.
Yeah.
I do a lot of body testing. Ron, maybe not as much as us, but you've just mainly because you've been there before and you know what's going to work or not work.
Yeah.
Well, his are all painted the same color, so sometimes it's hard to tell what
you guys
he's doing.
don't know I'm changing them.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. So let's just take like a GTP body for example. Okay, high downforce GTP body. So I like to leave about a 16-inch of a front bumper on mine, and then I cut the rear out to be about 1 inch and 5/8.
Yeah.
I like the front bumper on the car because I think it helps strengthen the body in crashes, gives a little more rigidity. And I also think that a front bumper also creates front downforce.
Yep.
I see a lot of people that cut the bumper off and they do what I call knife edging it and really slam the front end down.
Yep.
A lot of people do that. You do that.
You do that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people cut it really high in the back. They wedge it to get a lot of downforce. And some people drop it low to cut through the air. There's a lot of different tricks you can do. Explain to some of the people listening what's gonna happen to your car when you move the body forward or backward on the chassis, though.
Well, if you move it forward, push it further in front of the guide, you're going to increase your frontal down pressure, your frontal nose pressure on the body. But you can regulate that by cutting the body too. If you've got too much frontal downforce, you can, as you say, take some of that front edge off. You can cut out the wheel wells. You can put other little cuts in it to get rid of some of that. But then some tracks, you want to run a lot of front pressure. If you've got tracks with joins right on the exits of corners or odd things like that, especially flat tracks, then you may want to slide the body a fair way forward. Or again, in case of handout tires, if you've got a really sticky tire, then maybe you want to try and loosen up the rear a little bit by moving the body forward and try and free the car up a little bit that way. So you just got to try things. As far as GDP bodies on the back, that 1 inch and 5/8 seems to be a good sort of number. I was never one for lifting them right up. You go up to say the Slopefest up at Lee Gilbert's track, and all their Eurosports would be like 1 inch and 3/4, and really really high. I always felt it made the car tippy.
Yep.
That's a personal feeling. Lee also ran all the side dams on the back, and he swears that gave him extra side force and stuff. I could never feel it, but so yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with the bodies. Even bulletproofing them. You can stiffen them up. You can make them stiff, but keep them light, and there's all sorts of different things you can do.
So
the traditional place that most people mount their bodies tends to be right back on the guide, and I guess on the faster tracks that it seems to work really well. I don't understand why. Years ago we used to line the back of the GTP bodies up with the axle because you didn't really want it hanging out the back. These days, some of the long bodies seem to work hanging out the back. So what's changed? Why that is, I don't know. But if it works, it works.
Right. I mean, some days I just change bodies just because of the body length.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
Like I usually mount all my bodies pulled back as far as I can to the guide without it hanging the guide up or the guide hitting the body, whether it's pushed down or – so it's kind of the same on every body, but the bodies are different lengths. I mean, a Bentley's a little longer than a Cadillac, and Starfighter, whether it's a Starfighter long, a Starfighter regular, I don't know where those fit in with like my bodies per se, but Ralph's got his Renegade, it's long, and the Warrior's shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some days it's not about. Some days I don't think it's where the body's mounted on the chassis as much as it's the length of the body.
Yeah.
If both bodies are the same height in the rear,
yep,
and they're mounted on the same spot on the car,
yep,
then this body's better. Why is it better? Well, I mean, like when we raced at Hobby Max, you ran an Audi body, which is kind of a medium length body. And Mike Parker, who, well, not only did he know the track well, but his car went around really well. He ran a longer, like, Acura body.
Right.
And I told Ralph, because I had tried a Cadillac in a B3, and the longer body was better, which was the B3. So it's like, after watching the LMP race and Ralph's car compared to Mike's, it's like, I think this is a long body track.
Yeah.
And some tracks are
Okay, so
this way.
Yeah.
So a shorter body tends to make the car a little bit tighter and
twitchier.
And twitchier, right? A longer body, like Ron said, this was a quote unquote driver's track. So the longer body kind of frees the car up a little bit, makes it a little looser, in my opinion.
Yep.
And makes it, and therefore it can make it easier to drive sometimes.
Well, see, sometimes I think the longer body gives you more bite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that depends. I think that depends where it's mounted on the car too.
Also, you have to get tires in that equation. You know, you can
right.
You know, the short body with a bigger hub or whatever may give a similar, you know. But I tend to start, like bank tracks, I tend to start with the body on the guide like Ron does. But I'll have a bunch of bodies, and first of all, I'll just run through them all, and just get a feel for. I won't necessarily look at the clock at that point. Get a feel, because you know immediately, you know, whether this one's going to be close or not, or whether this one's a waste of time, or, you know. So I get that out of the way, and then I'll work with a couple of them and, you know, fine tune. And that may be moving it forward. It may be lifting it up, pushing it down, whatever, you know, whatever I think I need. I may lower it to help get some speed into the donut, or I might lift it up to deal with a kick at the 90, or, you know, something like that. You know. But I'll just fine tune for a while with a couple of bodies. And that's a lot of the time why I end up running old bodies, is because I've worked on them in practice, and then it's too late to duplicate it. You know, it's
See, to me, I think it's just a lot easier to change bodies to a different type of body than it is to worry about moving one body forward or backwards and keep poking holes in it and stuff.
Well, and as I say,
you know, there's a little bit to be gained there.
Right. Years ago, I would mount my bodies with 3 pinholes in them. So I'd have a neutral position.
Yeah.
You know, like the first position would be body pulled all the way back.
Yeah.
Then move it forward, next set. Move it forward again, and next set. So I had a neutral position, forward and a back position.
Right.
For me, for retro, I've got a bunch of bodies that I take to, like, for instance, Can-Am. I've got probably half a dozen wide nose, half a dozen narrow nose that have been on all sorts of cars. They beat up whatever, but they fit in all different ways.
Right.
So I can run through some of those, especially if I'm having trouble.
And see
what's close, and then find a race body from there.
Right.
That always drove me nuts about retro, because the cars always had different guide lengths. Yeah. So it was so hard to go from body 1 to car 1, then body 1 to car 2. You'd have to make the front wheel opening like that wide or something, you know, to try to rig it to go.
That's okay.
Come over to RGO. It's easy.
Yeah.
Lighter and more flex. But, you know, the thing now, the new twist too is with the Red Fox guide, because if you run a Red Fox guide, it's longer. So now your body has to be more forward on the car. And like, if you put on my retro cars, when I did run a Red Fox guide flag, I had to mount my bodies a little further forward to cover the guide, because the geometry's off on how we're building the chassis as far as the center of the guide hole to the center of the front axle. So,
see, I like I said, I leave a 16th front bumper, and then from the tip of the guide flag to my body, I go about a 16th there. I leave like a little bit of clearance, just to be safe.
Yep.
And Ron brought up guide flags, so I'll ask you, in Italy, were most of the top cars using the new Red Fox guide flag?
A lot of them were. Had all sorts of problems in 24th Euro because all the ISRA classes are single body to make it simple for everybody traveling, so you don't need to take 100 bodies with you.
Right.
And the 24th Euro body we currently have, which is the Red Fox Audi, 2015 Audi, is very short. It just fits on the chassis. And you're not allowed to see the rear tires when you look from above.
Right.
So the new guide is kind of, your body has to be right on the end of it, and then you have to leave a bit of the back of the body. All these years we've spent cutting the back of the body out because we feel that, it's like a parachute.
Right.
Well, we have to leave part of it in because you need a little bit of the back so you can
Cover the tires.
So yeah, that was. If you didn't run a Red Fox guide, then you just get through tech without the back of the body. But if you're running a Red Fox guide, you add some issues.
Okay.
I ran them on all my cars there. A lot of people were running. I couldn't say I haven't seen the pictures of the winning cars to see if they had them on them, but I know just looking through the rack, I was helping during qualifying with the cars in the rack, putting them in and out of there, and there's a lot of Red Fox guides there.
Will there be some pictures posted of the winning cars online?
Yes, Pat Skeen. Pat does a ISRA issue of his magazine.
Okay.
That's done, we'll have all the pictures to post.
Yeah, we've talked about his magazine. We've had him on the show for a couple minutes. So
yeah, he kind of has an exclusive on the tech at the end of the race at this point, so that helps him with his magazine, and
cool.
Then we get the pictures out after that. So
okay, awesome. You got anything else, Ron?
Upcoming races.
Okay, what do we got?
Because we didn't go over that.
All right.
Well,
I know we have the FNRS race coming up
this weekend.
Fast Eddie's.
FNRS number 5 at Fast Eddie's in, how do you say it, Pinellas?
Pinellas Park.
Pinellas Park, Florida. We got the Great Lakes Retro and Midwest Slot Car Series at Columbia City Raceway in Columbia City, Indiana. You got the B&E Hard Bodies at Mid-America Raceway this weekend. AWRA is in Concord, North Carolina. And then you have the ISRA Great Lakes Series is starting their series off this weekend at Mid-America on the LTD. And they also race their series at Chicagoland on the Fiedler Flat. And then I guess they'll probably run on the ISRA track at Mid-America at some point when they go back. I think it's like an 8-race series, 4 at Chicagoland, 4 at Mid-America.
Okay.
So they start this weekend. Next weekend, the 11th, we got the Ohio Challenge Cup Series at Fast Tracks in Fremont, Ohio. ORS at HMS in Bellevue on the King Track. B&E is at Chicagoland. You got the JPM Hard Body Series at South Bend at Thaser Raceway. You have the Turkey Dragnats at Tri-State Raceway in Middletown, Ohio.
They've been holding that race for a while now, too.
Yeah, a long time. It's a 2-weekend race. So on the 11th, it's for the bracket and index classes. And then you have the Fall Brawl Retro race at Speed Zone.
That'll be a big one. Chris may or may not be there.
Not sure yet. Yep, I'm hoping to get there, but at least for the GTC race, the Goop race.
And then November 18th, you have the Turkey Nats at Tri-State Raceway. Part 2 will be all class racing that weekend. ERS is at Fast Tracks. Penn, Ohio is at Washington, Pennsylvania. The Central Illinois Slot Series is at Elkhart, Illinois. The Penn Jersey NASCAR Series will be at Trains and Lanes on Sunday the 19th of that weekend. AWRA has 2 races that weekend, one at Thunder Road in Virginia and the other one's at Kingston's down in Alabama. Have you ever been to Kingston's, Ralph?
No.
Kingston Speedway in Alabama?
Actually, don't know. No, I haven't. What kind of track do they have?
You know what? I didn't notice.
Okay.
You have to go on the AWRA page and look it up.
Look that up, yeah.
And then Thanksgiving weekend, the only thing I got right now is Texas two-step retro race at Dallas Slot Cars. AWRA is at VT Raceway in California. And then you have the Turkey Classic drag race at Hot Slots in Lewisburg, Tennessee.
Okay, cool.
I got one for you.
You got another one for us?
June the 7th to 10th next year, be in Vasa, Finland. Warm up.
Oh, for ISRA.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Production.
Well, that's a little far out.
32nd F1, 24th Euro. Never too far out. If you're going to Finland, you probably need to do some planning, you know?
Yeah, start rowing your boat.
Pack up your winter gear.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, no, it's summer. It's going to be beautiful in Vassar in June.
Yeah, it might be 50 degrees.
I was looking the other day. They have like summer bars and stuff that open up and all sorts of things. It's actually looking like it's going to be a fantastic time.
They probably have my kind of summer over there. High as 70.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know what the weather is going to be like, but they have a lot of stuff there for apparently just for summer. So pretty cool.
Ralph's going next year to Finland.
Yeah.
It's my production teammate right here.
If you're buying, I'm flying.
All right, Chris. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come on with us. And
Well, do you have anything else you want to add, Chris? Or
The only other thing, I guess we do, we started the ISRA Hall of Fame.
oh yeah,
We inducted our first five. So Vladimir Hawkey, Paolo Trigilio, Dave Jick from New Zealand as ISRA's first champion. Giovanni Montiglio, who was one of the founders of ISRA, and Salvatore Noviello, who's unfortunately no longer with us, but a great champion and certainly missed by the slot car world.
so you inducted 5 people this year.
Yep.
Are you going to induct 5 people annually every year, or
3 to 5? We don't want to devalue the Hall of Fame by rushing too many in. But there are a lot of guys in the past that need to come in there, and so yeah, we figure 3 to 5 a year.
And who votes on who goes in the Hall of Fame?
We set up a committee this year. Was a group of very racers that have been around for a long time, including Gugu, Jerry Karlik, Reggie Regis, and Pat Skeen was the chair of the committee. So we took all the we opened on the Facebook page. We asked for people to nominate people to go in, and then we sorted through all those, put them to the committee, and that's the 5 they come up with as being good for the first year. And obviously, because we were in Italy, we could get some of those people to come along, like Giovanni Montiglio, who we haven't seen Israel for quite some years. We managed to get in touch with him, and he came up to the event. So it was awesome to have him there and induct him. It was great.
Cool.
That's based at the ISRA site at isra-slot.com. It's all there.
I have a flying visitor here. He's just wearing me out.
Yeah.
I've seen you go after him a couple times. Did you finally get him?
I ain't got that son of a bitch yet. Okay. So on the ISRA deal, in 26 years, and I know we talked about this pre-show, and I can't remember and who or how many have been to all 26 ISRA Worlds?
All of them, only Hawkey and we believe Jerry Karlik. There's some results. We're just going through it. Nobody has really looked at the history of ISRA with a fine-tooth comb, and there's some results are missing and other things that I've been working this last year with, and we brought Pat Skeen on as sort of ISRA historian, and I've been working with Pat to go through a lot of this stuff and tidy it up, and we're trying to get together first-hand accounts of where ISRA came from, what the Eurosport world looked like before that, and all that sort of thing. And so, yeah, as far as we know at this point, Hawkey and Jerry Karlik are the only 2 that have made every event. But guys like Paolo Trigilio, I think he's only missed 5 might have missed 5 out of all that. So
Right.
a number of guys are up around. Radis from Latvia, I think he's probably only missed 3, maybe 4.
Wow.
Well, that's like the USRA nets. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 40-some versions in now. And,
Yep.
I mean, you know, I think Joel was the last guy that had been to like 20 or 30-some.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Yep.
and, you know, like a guy like PA's been, I want to say almost every year since 77 or 76 or.
I thought I saw the other day he missed 1 or something maybe.
I don't think he was at the
last
first
couple
2 or
years.
3, but.
I mean the last couple, like maybe
Oh.
he missed 15 or.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he didn't. I think he missed 1 or maybe 2 somewhere in there. But
I'm thinking he had been to 20 or 25 straight. But
Still
yeah.
a lot.
yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
it's a lot. Yeah.
a lot of guys, that's their yearly vacation and their life. And
Well, that's why we came up with this. One is the Hall of Fame this year with ISRA, and the other is we want to sort of recognize, now that we've started to get all that data together, recognize some of the people that have been there a long time.
well,
This year's we call it the 25 plus celebration because it was missed last year, so we did it this year. We had a big cake and Piero put on all sorts of good drinks and things there, and we had a toast to ISRA, and we got a group of the guys that were there in '92 to carve up the big cake. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're just trying to do a few things like that with ISRA, just to you know, just recognize some of the people that have been there a long time, and
well, it's a nice gesture.
Yeah.
that's just something a little bit different. I haven't seen that sort of thing in many organizations, so we thought, hey, it's, you know, cool to do.
Right.
It'd be good sometime if we could get all the USRA results together over the years and see who's done what. You know?
Well, I have a list of all the winners from, you know, way back when, but there's just, I've had people tell me, I know who that is, or, you know, I get the magazine out, and then you never hear from them, and you go back and like, hey, it's like, it's almost like no one cares, you know, so. Yeah,
in some ways, but actually when you do it, it's been interesting with ISRA here, you know, I've started to put this stuff together this year, and people are actually getting interested, and you know.
Well, and see, here's the thing, once you have it done, it's done. You just got to update it every year.
Exactly.
So it just gets easier.
It's doing all the work to get it done.
All the work to get it right. So
actually, we were lucky with ISRA. There's here in Sweden has kept all of the results in one place for ISRA. So we're actually lucky to get almost all of them from there. So
we're lucky to have someone care enough to keep that. That's the thing. So you know. But so that's all.
All right. All right, Chris. Again, thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Thanks, guys.
We enjoyed hearing about ISRA. Hopefully, maybe hopefully a couple of people will be able to go check it out for the first time in Finland. And some people may or may not see the fall brawl. If not, we'll see when you come back next year.
Yep. I'll be around somewhere at some races. The ISRA thing's keeping me pretty busy. You know, there's a lot to do year to year, so it's kind of in some ways cut down some of my other racing a little bit. But
how can it be hard? You just sit there in your big chair there and you tell people what to do. Come on.
I think I'm the only one. I'm probably the worst person in ISRA. I only speak one language, English.
So you need to get this program and you can talk to everybody.
It's
how many delegates are there?
Sorry?
How many delegates are there now?
About 21 or 22, I think.
Can you imagine this screen with 20-some people on it, Ralph?
No, speaking 10 different languages.
That's the interesting thing with ISRA. But, you know, we use English as the main language, but of course can take on very different meanings, and it's hard to get some messages across, you know.
Well, English and American's the same, but totally different on some things. Goop and glue.
Well, I'm lucky. Being from New Zealand, we have a lot of English TV and a lot of US TV. So
Okay,
growing up, I know both sides.
Okay, so I was going to ask you this when we were talking about your history. New Zealand champion.
Yeah, a number of times won that. Yeah.
U.S. champion and various.
I think I'm pretty sure the ISRA Nats, everything, this LMP race this year, that was one that I still had to win. It just took me 17 years to win that.
Okay.
Yeah, everything except 24th Euro. I've been
okay.
second to 24th Euro, but I think everything else I've
Did you ever race or have any luck if you did race in Australia and win a Nats there?
No, I did race in Australia at various times. I lived in Australia actually for a few years on and off before I moved to the US, and raced at places like Hornsby and Hornsby's still there, but a few other raceways that have gone now. I went to the famous Parramatta, raced at the Parramatta Raceway, which was pretty cool.
And that was another thing earlier in the show when we were way back when, but. I want to wish well wishes to Wayne Bramble.
Yeah, to Wayne. Yeah.
Who's just got out of the hospital today, when this shows, it'll be a couple days ago from some testing. I think he's having kidney problems or liver problems.
I think so. Yeah, they were not sure last I saw on what Cody had posted.
Right. So he had been in the hospital and they were doing tests, and he should be at home. So
hope you're doing better, Wayne.
Yep. Get well, Wayne.
Chris, you were at the Southern Shootout. Is the track in Tennessee you were at?
That sounds like it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would have been the track Roger Holtzclaw's track.
That's right. See, I knew he was at one of them races, but yeah, I was at Roger Holtzclaw's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hour later, it hit me.
Yeah. It wasn't a flat track, was it? It was some fast.
It was like a Kingleman. It was a reverse Kingleman.
That's right. Yeah. That was fun.
That's the track that Willie and Ross bought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the race where I ran Ralph's backup car. Yeah, you should have those.
I ran on that track at Ross's Raceway too.
And they were both.
So hold on. Before the race, Rod comes down. He's like, "You got a car?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a car."
No. You said if I came down to the race, you had cars for me.
All right. So, anyways,
I didn't show up and say, "Give me a car."
Right. Yeah. So I give Ron a car. I got my car. It's an F1 car.
Yep.
Identical bodies. And Ron says, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, maybe we should run different bodies." I said, it'll be fine. Trust me.
I remember.
So, of course, the race starts.
I was marshalling that corner.
I get to the point where I get a lead on Ron, and then I'm like, yeah, I got him here. This is my race. And there's a track call, and I'm looking around the room, and power comes back on, and my eyes just gravitated to his car, being an identical body. Power comes on, 3, 2, 1, bam!
I picked your car up, and I looked at you, and your head was over the other part of the track.
Yeah.
There wasn't much left to it by that point.
At least Ron won that one.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Ralph.
Yeah.
I mean,
me and Casey do that all the time. We run the same bodies in pretty much everything we do, because we've got double the amount of bodies.
Right.
So, but you've got to be careful at track calls and things, and
Hey, I asked him.
We get used to it.
I offered, but he said he would be okay. So
it was. I said no. Only an idiot would do that.
Car handled pretty good when I was driving it and you were watching it, didn't it?
Yeah. But if you're going to run the same body, you just got to be aware and watch out for it.
Right.
When you're racing next to somebody and you have the same body,
and not take your eyes off of it on a track call.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. That's a wrap. Episode 13's in the books. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. Be safe, and good luck at the track.
You got anything else?
Not me.
What do we do at the end of the show? See,
you
can never remember the episode number. Now you can't remember.
What's the secret word of the show?
We'll go with Finland.
Finland? Okay.
Finland.
All right. Ron and I will see you in Finland. Take it easy.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody, and be safe racing. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
No problem.